Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. And this is a brand new What If, and something a little bit different, and that is what if Naofumi was in solo leveling. Okay, initially, I was going to make this a movie, but I decided, you know what? I'm going daily anyways. I don't really want to spend a ton of time making a hour-and-a-half movie and drain myself of creativity. So I have a plan for this what if. It's probably only gonna be like 2 parts, and you'll understand pretty quickly why, because of the way I set up Naofumi in this storyline. But if you want to see more solo leveling what ifs, I don't mind doing them at all, especially because it's only 1 season. Super nice when it's a shorter anime, and just I can get a little bit more creative with it and not worry about, oh, how long is this series going to be. But like I said, this is part 1, so if you enjoy, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I won't waste much more of your time because I want to get right into the story, so let's get it. It all starts here, in the ending of a SHIELD hero's journey. Everything that Naofumi Iwatani has gone through has led up to this. It seems like the worlds are saved and everybody can finally go home. But it's truly, truly bittersweet. He's made some amazing friends along the way and some amazing people that currently and may always be standing beside him. But at the end of the day, the decision had to be made. And the decision to go back home was obviously made by Naofumi. He wants to see his family again. His entire family again. He wants to live a normal life again. Live the life that he sought after and the life that he left so long ago. He has no idea what's going to happen when he steps through and he leaves this world after, or basically leaving behind some of the best people he's ever met, the people that he's protected and saved and done so many things with. Well, he feels like it's all collapsing and it's all going to come to an end now. Naofumi would say his goodbyes with people crying like Raftalia and Philo, but many others standing there proudly, enjoying the fact that they stood by and stood next to Naofumi Iwatani, the legendary SHIELD hero. But soon those waves and those goodbyes and all of those things would change as he steps through and he begins to glow a beautiful glow that he once saw a long time ago when he first opened the book about the 4 cardinal heroes. And in a matter of seconds, that glow would fade, then glimmer, then spark, and then disappear. Naofumi would appear in a city once again, a city that feels so brand new to him. A smile would grow over his face as he looks around to see the people walking. It's normality once again. The city's raging on, the city, people are walking, enjoying life, and wait, no, this is different. A little bit too different. Naofumi continues to look around and he realizes something. That the buildings he once left are not the same. How much time has truly passed? Has things really drastically changed in this way? No. The city that he was in, the library that he entered, the place that his family upheld, this city is not only completely different, there is no remnant of the old one. There is no remnant of a past city that used to even exist, until he sees something that would terrify him to his bones. Well, that would be people walking around with weapons, with gear, with armor, and they're all talking about something, talking about monsters and gates and all of these things, and he's completely struck by the idea that this world may be so similar to the one he once was in. Is this really his home world? Is this really his home world? The world that he once knew now changed into something like this? This terrifies him, thinking of his family. What could have happened of them? He begins to run through the streets looking for his family home, but his family home is nowhere to be found. He can't find even a glimpse of it. And he stops. He begins to breathe heavily. as he's slightly tired, and as he breathes heavily, he goes to wipe the sweat from his face, and as he does, he feels a cold metal touch his head, and when he looks on his arm, he sees something that he wasn't expecting to see, and that was his shield. The shield still strapped around his arm, and as he looks and is complete in shock by the revelation that his shield is still stuck to his arm, so much so that when he throws it off, it still appears right back on. Someone runs over to him and asks, well, where'd he get that shield? I mean, that's insane. A shield that can appear back on his arm when he gets rid of it, when he loses it? That's amazing. How much money, how much gold, how much currency did he spend for that? And he would stand there in shock, not saying a word, and the person would even stand there for about 15, 20, 25 seconds and question if the guy is a hunter. I mean, he has to be, right? That's why he has the shield. In which Naofumi would shake his head and respond, yeah, hunter, that's what I am. I gotta go. Naofumi would walk away, as the guy would call him kinda weird, because Naofumi would begin running around looking at the gates. He would see gate after gate. Seemingly, that's how the monsters and other people fight monsters and how the monsters appear in general, and he's kind of freaking out. He really entered a world where he's going to have to fight monsters all over again. He's really entered a world where he's going to have to deal with monsters, creatures, and even more on top of that. How is he going to deal with this? I mean, he already went through hell, and it seems like all of the output and all of the leveling and all of the power he got from the shield, it's gone. It's no longer stored up. It's no longer within his shield. All the hours, days, months of training, gone. Everything he worked for, everything he tried to maintain, all the power he gained, from the Blessed series to his shield's countless utility, to his immense amount of and ability of potion making, everything. It's all gone. What is happening, and what is even... He doesn't know. He begins to actually and mentally just check out to this point, and he continues to contemplate with himself. What does he do? Does he somehow become a hunter? Does he just live life normally here? He feels like there's no way for him to truly understand what this world is unless he becomes a hunter himself. So he begins to look into it. He begins to try to gain information about how to become a hunter and what the qualifications are, and so on and so forth. And eventually he comes across a whole breakdown of what he needs to do. A couple exams, a couple classes, a couple things here and there, a couple minor tests, and then an evaluation to see what type of hunter he was going to be. It seems like they have some sort of magical sort of rating that he doesn't necessarily understand, but still, it seems as if that's what it's going to be. He puts his hand on, or steps into some sort of chamber, or puts his hand on some sort of orb, and that's what tells him what kind of magical rating he has. He's not sure, but he does see that it seems like there's a ranking from E to S and everything in between, and he doesn't know what type of ranking he's going to get or what type of level he's going to be portrayed as. But he thinks to himself that he should get appraised as soon as possible, because if he wants to make an actual impact and actually, well, figure out what the hell is going on, that's probably the first step. So he decides that he's going to iron some things out, you could say. Try to get some things figured out on the half of trying to get his evaluation. And after he does everything that he needs to get done, he does get evaluated. And when he gets evaluated, it's something that would shock him and would pretty much throw him off quite a bit. And that would be the fact that he would be ranked as an E hunter. Yeah. And this would completely throw him off, because that would mean that he is the weakest hunter. And this would be completely out of the ordinary for Naofumi, at least at this point, because of how much he's gained in terms of strength. I mean, Obviously, in the beginning of Shield Hero and the beginning of his journey, he was pretty weak. I mean, he was the Shield Hero, wasn't allowed to or even able to use other weapons, but it seems in this world he starts just as bad. There's ranks that are divided into E, D, C, B, A, and then the highest is S. But at the end of the day, he is the E-ranked hunter. He is an E-rank hunter, and they tell him that not many people out there are actually E-rank hunters. It's actually kind of impressive that he's on such a low spectrum. It's almost as low as this other guy that they met not too long ago, or, well, someone that's been working really hard, but, well, let's just say he's kind of known as the weakest hunter ever. I mean, he's not as low as him, but, I mean, he's damn well really close, in which immediately Naofumi would ask, who is this person? And the person would contemplate if they remember his name, and then they would be like, oh, yes, Sung Jin Woo. That's the weakest hunter, and that is the weakest E-rank hunter ever. In which Naofumi would hear this name, but kind of shrug it off. Of course, not knowing or even really caring who he is necessarily, but he was just curious that there really was someone weaker than him. So this is when he starts a journey that feels very repetitive for him. A journey that he knows very, very well, and that's gathering as much material as possible that he can at least use in general outside of these so-called gates. He believes that these gates will be beneficial for him, will be beneficial in terms of absorption and also learning and also gaining power for his shield. But right now, what he needs to worry about is copying as many different shields as he possibly can, and that includes some of the more expensive and absolutely expensive shields, and he begins to copy them without anybody noticing, and he begins to absorb as much stuff as he possibly can that is like, you know, free sample of like potion like items, or even finding out recipes for different minor potions and trying to go find them and gain his herbalism back once again. He was a great potion maker, and he was great at making different types of potions, so this is definitely a way for him to make money in the long run as well. That is something for him to gain in terms of just making as much and a crap load of money as quick as possible, and that's what he does, frankly. I know he could technically go take on gates, but not many people actually want an E-rank hunter on their side. He would have to take on a low-level dungeon and be kind of just on the back burner, at least at the moment, and a lot of people would believe that he's not going to be useful, so he needs to be really careful about that. Now, with that said, he is definitely, or would definitely be, a tank-like person, and a lot of people need tanks, so it could be beneficial in the near future. But for now, he continues to pick herbs, gain as much knowledge about the world, kind of as he sells different things, he buys different things back so he can absorb them, and he gains the ability to create potions for himself. He gains basically the ability to create a ton of different things, and even go as far as allowing him to unlock different versions of his shield that are relatively basic but still at least somewhat beneficial. Now, the main thing that would be big for him is that he has been able to buy extremely expensive, or not buy, but copy extremely expensive shields that are going to massively benefit him in the long run. But obviously, it does draw some attention if he just flaunts it around. So he makes sure that he shows his base shield for now, and when he's getting ready to actually take on his first ever gate, he'll then show off that shield. But it seems as if that he's going to have a chance to actually show off that shield sooner than he could possibly imagine. Because, well, let's just say there's something going on nearby that he is just getting a glimpse of. Because right now, I'm gonna be honest, he doesn't have enough money to actually live and have a little apartment or anything like that. So he's kind of just been sleeping in nearby parks, trying not to get caught, because obviously he doesn't want to get in trouble for anything like that. He wants to not draw attention to himself. But soon he would see a fight breaking out, and he would see a monster actually outside of a gate. And this would shock him, because he thought that the gates are what holds the monsters. He didn't know that the gates could actually trickle out monsters the way that this one has. So he begins to go over to actually help the people over there, and luckily enough, he was able to maintain and eventually retain some of his old abilities. Now, Fumi's main ability that he loves and absolutely loves using would be his airstrike shield, something that he's still able to use, especially now. So he's able to basically use an airstrike shield to block some of the damage that is basically being sent toward this group of people trying to defeat this giant golem-like creature. Now Fumi's a tank. I'm gonna be honest, he is flat out right now, at least at this moment, and he lacks a lot of the punching power he once had, and that's because he frankly doesn't have any absorbed creatures or anything like that. I mean, once he starts absorbing certain creatures or certain parts of certain creatures, he might start gaining some insane shields. But for now, he has absolutely nothing because he hasn't gone through any gates. Now, he's still able to protect and actually help out this group, and everybody is shocked to see this because, I mean, they weren't expecting someone else to show up. But soon, Naofumi would get really creative with using some of his shield-like abilities. These shield-like abilities are pretty basic, don't get me wrong, but they're definitely helpful, and that's for sure. Because once he starts using his airstrike shield more aggressively, and then even turning it into a second shield, putting the shield behind the golem, and then one of his other airstrike shields horizontally through the golem, hitting the golem, injuring it quite a bit, everybody is pretty damn shocked, asking what kind of ability is that? And he tells the tank to take a break and that he can start tanking so that he can regain some of his health, putting up more of a shield and also blocking as much damage as possible using one of his more, if not the most expensive shield he was able to copy. He's able to fend off this giant golem to a large extent while people heal him relatively good. But now Fumi doesn't necessarily even need the healing, being that he actually has a ton of potions now that he's been storing up, but it definitely helps. He's able to hold off the golem and actually injure it quite a bit using some of his sneaky tactics that he's been utilizing, and even restrict the golem through actually a plant-based shield that is wrapping vines around the golem. It's nothing insane and nothing kind of super overpowered or anything like that, but with the restriction of the golem, it seems like someone from behind him is able to take out the golem's head, smashing it almost instantaneously, blowing it into pieces. Now Fumi would be excited to see this and would slightly smile, but then he would come back down to reality, and that reality is that he's still stuck in this world, a world he knows absolutely very little about. He would turn around to see who did it, and everybody would look confused. Now Fumi would revert his shield back to normal, as everybody is shocked to see this, but he waves off and he questions. He begins to look around to see who did it, and eventually his senses would catch up to him and he would see a glimpse of somebody running away, but he doesn't catch them full on. He's unfortunately unable to figure out who, that was, but still he kind of waves it off, and he doesn't worry about who it is. He's just happy that it got handled. He would walk over to the beast and absorb some of the beast or the golem within his shield, giving him quite a bit of a power boost, and defeating the golem himself or itself has given him quite a few levels, which this would make Naofumi happy to see, basically showing that he's still going to be able to level and maybe even be able to do other things that he feels might be important very, very soon. Because like all of us know, in his previous world, he was obviously able to not only level up, but actually have a team that would level up with him, and he could control a party like a party of some sorts. He would even look into his more game-like leveling type of system that he personally has, and he would look at a lot of things and they would all look very similar, if not exactly the same. So now Fumi is thinking to himself that at least he has the fallback of knowing what the hell he's doing, because that's at least something that's going to definitely be beneficial. Now he does, well, absorb as much of this stone golem that emerged from this D-ranked gate, and he gains some and quite a few good abilities. This golem was pretty damn strong, and he even gains an ability of making a shield that can make him not only tankier, but like drastically tankier. And on top of that, it allows him to spit out different stones off of his shield, giving him an ability to actually fight at least a little bit more. So Naofumi's happy to see this, and even sees that he's gained a passive ability of just more defense. So nothing wrong with a little bit more defense, so he's happy about that as well. And after absorbing this stone golem, he now realizes that he needs to continue doing gates, because this is something that he could genuinely get more and more money from. This is something that is going to be super beneficial to him, because it's not only he's going to get more money from it, but he's actually going to get more power from it. Power, strength, it's all of the name of the game, and it's something that he's extremely excited to be involved in. Now, this would lead him to actually thinking to himself, he needs to make some money. He needs a place to stay. He's tired of sleeping on grass, tired of sleeping on the ground, but he does know he needs to make some money, maybe somehow gain some allies or whatever. That's all he could think about at the moment, and he just debates with himself. How is he supposed to do those things? And he's sitting in the park one day, just relaxing and chilling, just thinking to himself, what's the best course of action to make money? Maybe through the gates, maybe he somehow can find a gate and join a team where they can make some money that way, or anything like that. He's not 100% sure, but he feels like there needs to be some sort of way for him to do these things. And he sits there and thinks for a while, and eventually he actually feels a rub against his leg. That rub against his leg absolutely scares him. He jumps back for a second to see that it's actually a little dog, and he thinks to himself that, wow, I mean, he hasn't seen just a normal dog in a while, like not to like this degree. This is obviously just like your run-of-the-mill typical dog. And he pets the dog for a little bit, and then thinks to himself, well, if his party system works the exact same way, he wonders, can he actually put this dog in his party? He thinks to himself, like, that feels a little cruel, and he doesn't want to have the dog get hurt. But it seems like the dog has basically wanting to be around him no matter what. Everywhere he moves, the dog is latched onto him, and even so that the dog will hop on his back and wrap around his neck almost and just lay there and sleep. It's as if the dog has like this innate skill of knowing that Naofumi is some sort of animal whisperer. So Naofumi decides to have the dog join his party, and thinks to himself that maybe he can gain some sort of strength off of it. Maybe the dog will be even more powerful, or get more powerful and gain abilities. He's not sure. He has no idea. He doesn't know if it's different in this world or if it's different at all, but he thinks to himself that it couldn't hurt, right? It could be beneficial. Maybe the dog could even carry some things for him in the long run. So they continue their journeys together, and I almost said the other main character that I talk about in terms of a different anime. Naofumi would continue his journey and would continue trying to figure out what the best course of action for himself is. That's until he comes across a paper. This paper would be interesting. It says that he doesn't actually, or he could join the group of this dungeon of some sorts. It seems like it's a C rank dungeon, and they're actually going to do a C rank dungeon, quote unquote, and more or less they want to have a bunch of people that they're not allowed to get battle drops, but they'll get a lot of money for it. Now Fumi would think that this obviously is too good to be true. I mean, it has to be, right? Like, why would they just offer a ton of money but just be like, oh, you just can't pick up the battle drops? And now Fumi would think to himself that he probably shouldn't join something like that, because he really does need to maintain as many battle drops as possible. So he decides to avoid that one and join a different one. It's a lower ranked dungeon. It's a D ranked or D ranked gate, but still It's something basic, and they allow E ranks, and he says that he is an E rank E rank tank, and they think that would be fine as long as he doesn't completely fall over and die. He meets some new people, not really worrying about knowing or wanting to know who they are, and they all enter, about 10 of them, the D rank dungeon. Now, this D rank gate isn't going to be too difficult, and they're going to have to deal with a couple things, and obviously Naofumi takes alongside his doggo, or his dog at the moment, who he, well, isn't quite naming just yet, but he does think about a name and maybe kind of contemplates it for a little bit, but he doesn't want to give the dog a name just yet because he doesn't want to get too attached. But soon he would realize that this dog is a lot more useful than he possibly could think, because the first wave of monsters that they have to take on are actually just some basic run-of-the-mill goblins. Now, these goblins, they go over pretty easy for the majority of the people, and Naofumi continues to absorb as much as possible and also take some of these crystals. It seems like there's these blue crystals that drop that normally sell for quite a bit, but when Naofumi absorbs them into his shield, he actually gains quite a bit of experience, gaining him and the dog next to him, his doggo of course, quite a bit of XP, which would shock him entirely. I mean, that's a lot of experience he just got from these tiny shards. I mean, there's shards like kind of scattered around the area, and he's heard rumors that some of these shards actually just grow and you can mine them. So the fact that he can get levels from these tiny blue shards, or these shards that drop from killing these monsters, this could be extremely beneficial for him, and also any party he decides to build from here on out. He continues to level up more and more throughout the entirety of the dungeon, tanking for everybody as best as he possibly can, and everybody is shocked to see how good of an E rank he really is. They ask if he's really an E rank because, well, it seems like he's doing a lot, but he says that his expensive gear that he was basically gifted after his grandfather died, you know, that's what really carries him through these dungeons, in which everyone actually just believes him. They think, oh, you know what, you're right. I mean, it's obvious that the gear is what's really doing it, and they all just agree that Naofumi isn't necessarily super powerful. His gear is just super powerful. Naofumi would just take it and, you know, be like, yeah, that's totally true, as him and his dog continued to basically block as much damage, and also his little doggo starts getting some action himself, and he starts gaining some pretty damn strong power. And this would lead them to the final boss of the D rank dungeon, which they believed was going to be pretty basic and pretty simple, but soon they would learn it's actually a big and a pretty big sizable wolf. This wolf would immediately try and attack them, and Naofumi would airstrike shield the wolf right in the face, blocking the damage. His dog wants to run in and try to, like, you know, fight it out as well, but Naofumi basically tells him not to do that. But the dog that he has right next to him begins to glow, and he's shocked to see this. What is even happening? He begins to see his shield glow as well, as his dog would begin to grow in size, almost being the same size as the giant wolf-like creature that is standing in front of him. He would then smile and think that he must have a different effect on these animals in this world, even though his powers are very similar similar in comparison to his last world. Now, he immediately sends off his dog, and everybody is in shock as they follow the dog, or the giant wolf now, right behind. And they begin to attack the other wolf, killing him eventually and ending the D rank dungeon. Now Naofumi would have his, well, little dog shrink back in size, and would think to himself that he feels that it's only fitting to name him after, well, a dog from some sort of mythology. So he decides to call the dog, well, that turned into a giant wolf, Fenrir, thinking that it's pretty fitting, and he thinks that it's a very fearful name in terms of people will now fear it, or fear the giant wolf that's running down on them to kill them. So he decides, why not call him Fenrir, and it seems like the little Fenrir likes the name because he jumps on the neck of Naofumi once again and just lays down and goes to sleep. Naofumi would approach the giant wolf, absorbing some of the fur, some of the pelts, some of the crystals, and all of that, gaining a ton of XP, even getting to the point where he's at level 15, and his dog's already at his Fenrir is already at level 12. Seeing that Fenrir has a boosted experience, very similar to the Slave Crest, but not to that degree. Not as high of experience, but since they have some sort of animal whisperer bond, it seems like his experience continues to ramp up. Now, this would lead him into doing a couple dungeons here and there, and eventually he would stumble across a dungeon with a couple other people he doesn't personally know, but he decides to join in. And he sees this person. He sees one person, and this person looks very familiar to him. He looks at him and kind of squints his eyes, and, well, let's just say he sees this person, and then he pans over to the side to see a girl. Wait, he knows who this is. He's seen this. This is the same healer that helped during the golem, in which he would introduce himself and ask if she is that same girl, and she would say, oh, yes, of course, and would basically introduce herself. She would say that her name is Jo Hee, and also the guy next to her is Sung Jin Woo, in which immediately Naofumi thinks to himself that he's heard that name before, but he was supposed to be weak, and he's seen this person running away after what he thought was destroying, well, the giant golem. And he would think to himself, that's interesting. He's going to hold on to it, but it's very interesting. He looks behind him as someone walks up, seemingly being part of the raid party to fill out some of the other hunters. And of course, Naofumi would meet all the other people, but I'm gonna be honest, Jin Woo and Jo Hee are the main ones that he meets, and he does meet the other people as well, but it's nothing too important massively. Nothing is that crazy at the moment, but he does see these other prisoners and also Kang, and gets a really bad feeling about what's going on. Like, all of this feels like a setup, and trust me, he knows what a setup is like. So he walks over slowly to Jin Woo and says that he knows, in which Jin Woo would be shocked to hear this, and pulls him over and asks him what does he mean by that. And he says that he knows that he's an E rank hunter who's extremely weak. But then immediately Sung Jin Woo would be like, no one's hiding that information, excuse me. And immediately Naofumi responds that he says he knows. And then Sung Jin Woo would feel completely out of place for a second and realize what he's saying. Sung Jin Woo realizes that Naofumi is saying that he knows that he is stronger than he's leading on, but Naofumi would nod to him and say that, and point toward his shield and tap it one time, and would insinuate something that it seems like Sung Jin Woo has at least some sort of understanding with. But he would pause for a second, and Naofumi would tell him that he seems like a trustworthy person, so he's going to say this, and he's going to say it very, very, very seriously. Them going in here might be a bad idea, because he has a bad feeling about this. Sung Jin Woo would look at Naofumi and realize that it's not like he's referring to anything crazy. He's not referring to a threat. Naofumi's not referring to it as he's going to hurt anybody, or Sung Jin Woo's going to hurt anybody, but Sung Jin Woo would pan and look toward Kang and the other prisoners, and would now realize what he's saying. But still, for now, they go in, walking through the gate as they're aided by a bunch of prisoners, and also Kang, a B-ranked hunter who is working with these prisoners and the associations involved with them. But what's going to happen in this B rank, or this dungeon, or this C rank dungeon, excuse me? Well, you're gonna have to find out in the next part of What If Naofumi wasn't solo leveling. If you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, next part will be the last part, and then we'll get the entire movie. I know some of you will probably be like, wait, how is it going to be the final part? This isn't a Sung Jin Woo what if necessarily, so if I did a Sung Jin Woo what if, it would probably be 2 to 3 parts, because it's a lot more for me to cover, maybe even as far as 4 parts, depending on how much detail I decide to put in. But since this isn't a Sung Jin Woo What If, we are following the journey of Naofumi in solo leveling, it's going to be a little different. Also, for those who actually probably want me to do a What If Naofumi replaced Sung Jin Woo, we might do that down the line. I haven't decided yet. But still, if you guys enjoyed part 1, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. It tells me that you guys want to see the next part ASAP. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope y'all have an amazing day. Later.